Morning.
Morning. Okay, so I'm Hansa. Okay, I am working here as a GIS trainer and analyst. So today we'll be looking at data cleaning and error handling. So I'll share my screen. So what is data cleaning? Okay, so data cleaning is you may have certain errors or inaccuracies or inconsistencies in your data. Okay, so you have to identify them and correct all those errors. Okay, so why is it important? Again, if the data that you're using is not correct, okay, so any analysis that you do further or any decision that you make based on that analysis, whatever output you're trying to present, okay, those won't be accurate. Okay, so it is very important to make sure that your data that you're using is reliable. Okay, and also it should also meet the data standards. Okay, so how do you rectify or identify and correct all these errors? Okay, so first we'll see what are the common errors that we encounter. Okay, usually here the errors that we see is with respect to the geometries, or it could be with respect to the attributes data, or with respect to the coordinates or the spatial inaccuracy. So geometrical errors could be while you're creating the data, okay, when the data is being created or when digitizing, you may have certain errors, geometrical errors in terms of overlaps, or you may have gaps in between those. Like if you're representing any boundaries, okay, political boundaries, in that you may have overlap between two of the boundaries, or you may have gaps between them. And in terms of if you take road network, okay, you may have uh, dangling ends. Dangling ends means if you have an intersection, the line is not properly connected to that particular intersection. Okay, it's not connected. It's still it needs to be connected to the road network, right? So it doesn't. So that will not ensure connectivity. Then attribute inconsistencies. So attribute inconsistency could be one is you could have missing values, or you could have duplicates, or you may have certain what is it special characters in the attribute table, which will again cause problem if you're trying to do any kind of analysis. Then spatial inaccuracies could be in terms of your coordinates or projections. Okay, if you're working on multiple layers, if each layer is in a different projection, that may cause issues when you're doing analysis. Okay, so these are the errors, common errors that we encounter usually. So how do we correct these? Okay, so one is geometrical errors would be corrected using topology. Right, so these are all topological errors. Attribute errors, you can, if it's some statistical analysis that you're looking at, in that case you can check for the outliers, or if you're trying to correct the errors or if you have suppose missing values, for missing values either you can use interpolation or you can check any existing databases and then you can get the data, or maybe you can try computing the average, so based on the data, the nearby data that you have. Okay. Then projection. So projection is you have to make sure that all the layers are in the same projection. Okay. So you'll have to check the source. That is source in the sense I'm talking about the spatial reference. Okay. So all of them should be having the same spatial reference. So we'll see how to do this, how to check the errors and how to correct them. Okay. So for that, I'll first add the parcels data. Okay. So here I have this parcels data. Okay. So here, if you just look at the what is it, the data, you cannot find any errors. I'm talking about geometrical errors right now. Okay. You will not find any geometrical errors. And if I check the attribute table for this, okay, so the attribute table here, it has, one is it has the parcel IDs. Okay, so each parcel is being represented using a particular ID. Okay, then you have the zone description. Zone description is it a kind of residential area or is it a commercial area? Okay, so those are the zone descriptions. And then you have the owner name. Okay, so who does that property belong to? Right. So in attribute, if you see here, okay, you have the parcel ID. See, one is you may have duplicate parcel IDs as well. So one is you have to make sure that each parcel has a unique ID. One. Second, if you check this attribute table, or if you just want to see what are the attributes present here, okay. Suppose for this parcel layer that I have, okay, I'm only giving two kinds of zone description, or I want just two zone descriptions. One is residential and one is commercial. Okay, so I'll first check what are the values present in this zone description field. Okay, so to check it, I'll just give a query. Fine. So I'll give the zone description is equal to, so it has all these values: residential, commercial, housing, retail. Okay, and these are all for residential itself. You have multiple values. Okay, these are probably spelling errors. Even the case, if it's different, it is showing as a different value. And even for commercial, you have the same. It's showing retail as well, housing also. So housing need not be separate value there. I can just give one value residential, okay, to include that also. So here for the same zone description, you have two different values. I don't want that, right? So I need to just standardize this data, okay. This one error that I need to correct, okay. Another one is your owner name, okay. So here again, one is the cases are very different. Suppose if I have, let me add the data. Okay, so here you have this parcel data. Okay, so this has the zone description, it has the owner name, and it has some tax value field. Okay, so if I want to add this tax value field here, I have to make sure that to join that particular data to this shape file that I have or to this parcel data I have, I'll have to join it based on some of the field. Parcel ID is one. Okay, if you have error in parcel ID also, you won't be able to join. Suppose if I want to join it based on the owner name. Okay, so here the values that you have in that particular field for owner name should match exactly with the parcel data, right? So here if you see everything, if it's in title case, okay, title case, all the entries are mostly not mostly, all the entries are in title case. Whereas in parcels, the layer that I have here, if you see, you have the cases are different. That is one. Okay. Then you also have some of them. The case is just not the first alphabet, but also some of them are in uppercase, and some of them also have special characters here. Okay, so if I try to join, that will cause a problem. It won't join those values. I won't get the value to show null. Okay, so I have to correct these values also for each of these parcels. Okay, so first, if I have to correct this, if I start with the owner name correcting this, so first I'll just remove the special characters. Okay, these special characters that I have. So here, if you check the names, wherever they're supposed to be A, okay, instead of A, they have given at the rate for this data. Wherever there should be an A, they have used at the rate. All these names that you see. Okay, so I'll replace that at the rate with A. Okay, so for that, what I'll do is I'll just go to the field and go to calculate field, and then here you have this. So here first you have to select the field for which you want to make the edit. Okay, so the field that I have is owner name, so you have to select it from here. Okay, you have the field here, right? Owner name. Select the field, and then you have to replace this, right? Okay, first let's do the title case. So title cases, you have all these. The first alphabets are in lowercase, right? So I have to make it to uppercase. So for that, you have a function called title. Okay, dot title. So whatever field you have, okay, the field dot title will change this to uppercase or title case, not uppercase, title case. Okay. So all the names, even if the names are in uppercase, they would be changed to title case. Now if I apply this, I just give enable, undo, and apply. Okay, okay. So now if you see all the names, okay, all of them would be now under title case. Right? So all of them are under title case. Alright. So now next is I want to change this at the rate to what is it? A, the alphabet A. Okay. So now to do that, I'll again go to that field calculator. Okay. I'll go to calculate field. Now here, okay, I'll just save the edits that I've made first. Okay. These are the edits that I've made in the attribute. So now to give that, now again I'll select the field name. Okay. Field name dot. Okay, look, here you have to give the function first. Okay. So we have a replace function. Replace function, owner, and what do I want to replace it with? Okay, so here you have the at the rate, right? So you have here the special character is at the rate. So that I have to replace with A, right? So I'll give, make sure to give it within commas. So string. Okay, so at the rate I have to replace with the character A, right? So I'll give that and then again enable, undo, and apply. Okay, so now here again all the okay, all the special characters have now changed to A, right? Here. And here you can see some of them, wherever you have R, right? They're also in caps. So I'll apply the title case once again. Okay. Title case, or what I'll do, I'll first turn everything into lowercase and then I'll go back to title case, because you have some of these as if I give again title case, this may remain still in uppercase. Okay. So first I'll correct that. I'll change it to lowercase first. Calculate field again. The field with the, so for lowercase you have a separate dot lower. Just keep it to enable, undo, and then apply. Okay, so that should make everything to one case. So now I'll change it to title case. Okay. All the edits got discarded. No, no, it's corrected. No, it's corrected now. Okay, fine. Let me just save it. Okay, it's saved also. Okay, so now also the owner name is, now this field is corrected. Okay, so now the next field that I have to correct is the zone description. So here I need just two values. One is residential and then one is commercial. So for that, what I can do is I can assign a domain for this. Okay, so that only these two values this particular field can take. Okay, so to assign that, again, I'll first create a geodatabase for this. Okay, so first create a geodatabase. I'll just go to that folder and then create a new geodatabase. Okay. And now within this geodatabase, because I have to also do the topology, okay, I have to also check if there are any geometric errors. So anyways, I have to create a geodatabase. So I'll create it right now. So I'll create a geodatabase, and then within that, I'm creating a data set as well. Okay, so I'll just name this data set as parcels. Okay. And now here coordinate system, again the spatial reference has to be same for all the layers. So first just check the spatial reference for this particular layer and make sure that whatever layers you're adding, feature classes, feature dataset, everything is in the same CRS. Okay, I mean the coordinate reference system. So it is in WGS 1984. Okay, so I'll change this to WGS 1984. And then once the data set is created, now I'll add this feature class to this particular geodatabase within that particular feature data set. Okay, I have the data set. Now I have to add this parcel feature class to this particular data set. Okay, I have another layer here, roads. You can add that as well. Okay. So first I'll add the parcels to the geodatabase. So to add it, I just import it into the geodatabase. So again, I just go to the data set and then import the feature class. Okay. So what is it that I want to import? I want to import the parcels layer. Add. Okay. Okay. So if I go back to catalog, let's refresh it. Okay, so I have the parcels added to my feature dataset. So now what I'll do is I'll define domain for this. Okay, so that only I need only two values for the zone description. Okay, so you can enter only those two values for this particular zone description. Alright, so for that first, I'll just create another field for it, or you can maintain the same field also. Okay, I'll keep the same field. Let's try to close it. Okay, so I'll assign the domain to this. So to assign domain, select that particular feature class. Okay, go to data. So let me check. Okay, this is not within the geodatabase that I've added. I have to add the layer once again. Just a minute. Let me remove it and add it once again. So now if I go to data, okay, I have the domain. Okay, before this domain wasn't enabled because the parcels here that I had added before, that wasn't added to the geodatabase. Okay, so I have to add the data once again. So once you've added, so now I'll create domains for this. So I'll add the domain. So I'll create a domain for the zones. Okay, the zoning areas that I have. So I'll just give it as zone, the domain name. You can give a description of what that particular domain is representing, and then the field type has to be same as what you have given for that particular field. Okay, so if I just open the attribute table, I have this field called zone description, right? So this is this has a particular data type. So if you just place your cursor on it, it will show you the data type. Okay, it is text. Or else what you can do is you can go to the fields. Okay, so it will show you if you just check there, it will show the data type. Okay, so you'll get the data type is text. Okay, so I have the data type. So here when I'm creating domain, I have to give the same data type here as well. So I'll give it as text. Okay, so here I'm giving coded value domain. Coded value domain is I'm assigning a code and saying that this code means it has this particular value. So for example, code 1 is representing residential areas, code 2 is representing commercial zones. Okay, so that is your coded. Ranges, you're giving a maximum and minimum value. So based on that, it will take only the values within that particular range that you specify. Okay, so if I'm giving these codes and description, it will take only these values. Other than this, you cannot add any other value. Okay, so I'll give the code as say one is residential, and then two is say I'll give it as commercial. Okay, just save it. Once you've created the domain, save it. And now I'll go to the fields. Okay, open the fields. Now we have created the domain. So you have to assign that domain to that particular field. Okay, so here this is the field, right? Zone description. I have to assign the domain to this particular field. So here you have this domain field, right? So here add a new domain. It's not showing. Let me just check once again. Yeah, let's see. Let me add the data once again. Not this one. It's within the geo database. I have to add that data. Let me try assigning it once again. If it's not assigning, then I'll probably add a new field and then assign. I'll add a new field. It's not taking me the same one. I'll just create another field for the zone description. Keep it the same text field. And now it's not showing the domain. Let me try creating another domain and see if it's showing. Okay, the data type here is short. That's why it's not showing there. I'll change to short. I'll have to create it once again because the field type is different for both of them. So it's not showing. It should be text. I think by mistake I selected short. It should be text. That's why it's not showing there. Because the text has to match. So if I select any other short, I don't have any short field as well. Okay, so if any data type was short, for that it would have shown that domain. So I'll just delete this domain and create it once again. Because of the different data type, it's not creating. So just right click on it and you can delete the domain. Save it. Yes.
Um, one person is raising hands. I think they have some questions. Srivatsa.
Okay, yes. What's the doubt?
Well, why can't we take subtypes for this instead of domains?
You can take subtypes as well, but here I'm not assigning any default value, right? So if I had to assign any default value for each of those subtypes, then I could have given a subtype. But here I'm not assigning any default values. I'm just giving the rule that only these two values are allowed. Okay, other than this, none of the other values you can enter. That's why I'm assigning a domain.
Okay.
Okay. So let me just change the name back to zone. You can just keep it to zone as well. There's no need to give the same field name. Text. Let me give the code once again. You can use 0 also for the code. The code could be anything. Residential. save it. Let me check if I can now add it. Zone description. Okay, so now it is showing the zone domain that I created. Because of the different data type, it created that problem. I think by mistake I selected short. Okay, so we have the zone description. Okay, so here if I select that particular zone description field, it shows the domain that I've assigned. So I've assigned the domain here, and if I save it now, I've saved it. So if I now check the attribute table, okay, so what I'll do is I'll, instead of searching for the entire data, I'll just again give a query saying the zone description field is equal to, okay, I have only two values. I have to replace it now. Okay, so let's see this residential itself. And here you have this retail. So instead of retail, I'll select it as commercial. So again here you can just, this is residential. Okay, so when you're giving residential, so here now I have restricted the values that here only these values are allowed. Other than residential, commercial, you cannot enter any other value. So before for residential itself, you had four different values. For commercial, you had retail, you had some spelling errors as well, right? So this way you can make sure that you are just allowing a set of values, okay, or standardizing the values that you can enter within that particular field, okay, or for that particular feature that you're creating. Let me just save these edits. Okay, so these are some of the attribute errors that you can have. Okay, so usually the errors that you can have is with respect to these values, that you have multiple values, right, for the same. So here I need just two, right? I needed just two, but for the same value you had like based on the spellings or based on some other name, right? You had given multiple values. So this is a very common error that you may have. That is one. Okay, this don't need this field right now. So you can have, so this is the attribute error. Okay. So now let's check if we have any geometrical errors for this particular parcels here or no. So to check the if there is any error or no, you have to create a topology for this. Okay. So topology again, you can only create it. So one more thing. So topology when you're creating, whichever for whichever layer, okay, or for whichever feature class you're creating the topology, that has to be within the geodatabase. Alright. So here I'll create this topology within this data set. Okay, so I'll just go to that parcels layer, go to new and create topology. Okay, so it is just defining the spatial relationship between your two classes or your not two classes within that same feature class or within or between multiple feature classes as well. Okay, so here you have this topology name, parcels. So if you want, you can change the name. Then you have XY tolerance. XY tolerance is whatever value here it is. Okay, so this value it will take based on the data set that you have. Okay, by default it takes the value. So this XY tolerance is like whatever tolerance value is given. Within that tolerance value, if it is finding any error, those would be corrected. Okay, it is that. The number of XY ranks is now, for example, when you are giving, suppose I have, suppose I have a line, okay, it is to be snapped to any of the particular, I have an intersection. Let me just show that here. Okay. Suppose here I have, suppose this row, this is the intersection, okay. So here I have a particular line, okay, and it has, and this is one intersection, and suppose I have another adjacent intersection here, okay. So the ranks that you give, so if the rank is by default set to 1, okay, one means this line would be corrected or snapped to any of the line which is nearest to it, okay. If this intersection is nearest, it will snap to this. If I am giving ranks 2, so it will compare or it will snap to compare two of the lines, okay, two of the lines it will compare and then accordingly it will snap. So as I'm increasing the this thing XY rank, So there, if I have more adjacent lines, it will consider all of those. So that is your XY rank, and tolerance is based on the distance. Okay. So here I have this parcels layer. Let me just get zoom to layer. So I'll first create the topology for this. Topology. Okay, so here once you've given the name, XY tolerance, number of XY ranks, now here you have to select the feature class for which you want to create the topology for. Okay, so here I'm creating this parcels layer. Okay, so I've selected this. If you have other layers, feature classes added to this dataset, even those will appear here. So you can just select which one you want to check the topology for. Right. So once I've selected the feature class for which I want to create, okay, go to next. So here you have to define rules. Okay, so based on these rules, you will be it will show the errors that you have within your topology. I mean within the feature class. So first is you have to select the feature class. So select here, click here to add a new rule. Select the feature class. Here I have only one feature class, parcels join. No subtype is assigned. So here I have to give a rule. So what is the rule? So you'll have these rules that you have will differ with respect to the geometry. Okay, so for polygon you'll have a different set of rules. For lines you'll have a different set of rules, and for points also you'll have a different set of rules. Okay, so here I have the rule. First is parcels join. First it shows this must not have gaps. So I can apply this rule here. Okay, must not have gaps can be applied here. This is one. So now if you're actually looking this with respect to another feature class, suppose I have this is the parcel boundary and maybe you have see the building here. Okay, so you could have a rule saying that the building must be completely enclosed within the parcel. Okay, so in that case you can give feature class 1 could be building, feature class 2 could be the parcel, and then accordingly you can give, maybe you could give must be covered by feature class of. That means this feature class should be covered by this particular feature class, means it should be completely within that particular feature class. So building should be completely within that parcel. Okay, so that's the rule. So if you have another feature class, you can give you can check the what is it spatial relationship between them also. Okay, so here this is one rule that I've added. Another rule that I'll add is with this parcels join, I can add must not overlap. Okay, so the parcel layers again they must not overlap or they must not have gaps. Then must not be covered by this again I need two feature classes, must cover each other, two feature class must be covered by, must not overlap with boundary, must be covered by. So you have for area line as well. Okay, so contains point, area point also. So like this it will be different if you're adding a line feature, and it will be different, the rules will be different for the point feature as well. Okay, so you have parcels join, so I think I can only get these two rows here. Okay, so I'll remove this rule. So I have these two rules. Okay, so if you have already a set of pre-existing rules, you can add them here. Okay, you can load those rules as well. Okay, so now here I've given these rules and go to next. This just shows a summary of whatever you've given: the topology layer name, the tolerance level, the rank, the feature classes that are participating in this, and the roles that you've given for that particular feature class. I'll just finish this. Okay, so here if I just check the data set, just refresh it. Okay, so I have the topology created. Okay, so I'll just add this to the map. Okay, so I've added the topology. Now if I go to edit, okay, here right now under edit it is selected as no topology. Just select this, select the drop down, and then just select the topology layer that you've just added. Okay. And once you've given it, you'll have this error inspector using which we'll be validating all these errors and correcting them. Okay. So the some of the errors could be corrected using this error inspector itself, or else once you find the error, then you can use the modification tools to correct those errors. Okay. So now I have, so one more thing is, when you're doing topology, whatever extent you have, it just shows the errors for that particular extent. Okay. So if you want to get the list of all the errors for the entire layer, just make sure your entire layer is visible, and then you can validate. Okay. So here it shows some around 8 errors. Okay. So we'll just see what these errors are. Okay. Here you'll also get the preview of what those errors are. Okay. Preview. Then you get the detail, what is the role that you're given. Okay, the feature classes, if you're given 2 feature classes, or it's just for 1 feature class, and what is the possible correction that you can do for that particular error. Okay, so let's start with the first one. So if I select it, here it is showing. Okay, it is highlighted, right? You can see in the preview as well. I'll just zoom, or else you can just right click here and give zoom to feature. So here it is showing the rule is must not have gaps. Okay, that is it should be completely connected to the adjacent polygon. But here I have a road layer in between. Okay, so this is not an error. In this case, this won't be an error because these are 2 separate areas itself. There's a road here, so this won't be an error. So for this, what I can do is I can mark this as an exception. So like this, you'll probably have error for the others as well. All these outer ones are showing as error, right? Because these are not, you have gaps here on the left, top, right side, you have all the gaps. So because of that, it is showing the error. Alright, so all these won't be considered as errors. So what I can do is these, just the gaps one, where you have these the outer red layer that you see. Okay, one more thing here, if you see the legend here for the topology layer, it is showing what it means. Okay, error would be highlighted in red. Okay, any exceptions that you're marking, like for example in this case, this would be marked as an exception because that is not an error. Okay, so these are your polygon errors. If you have a line error, it will show like this, and these are your point errors. Okay, so now I have these errors, so I'll just mark these as an exception, and then we'll look at the other errors. Okay, so this is an exception, so you can just right click on it and give mark as exception. Okay, then you have the next. Even this is an exception. Okay, even because of the gap that you have between the adjacent layers, the adjacent features, it's showing error, but it's not an error, so I'll mark this also as an exception. The next that you have is this is an error it's showing. Okay, it shows must not have gaps. Okay, you can see here if you zoom in more, there is a gap between both these parcels. Right? There shouldn't be any gap. The boundary should be completely covered, right? So what you can do here is either one is you can use the modification tool and edit the vertices. That is one what you can do. Or what you can do is here you'll get a correct fix. Okay, if you see here, it is showing a fix. It is showing you to create a feature in between so that the gap would be covered. Okay, so I'll just right click on it. You can either give the fix from here. You can just select it and you can give the fix, or if you just right click on that particular rule, there also to show the fix that you can give for this particular error. Okay, it shows create feature. So if I give create feature, now polygon is created in between that, covering that gap. Okay, so this is one, or you can edit the vertices. Okay, so here it will not show all the corrections. Some of the corrections which are possible it will show. So those you can, if it's possible, you can apply those corrections from here itself. Otherwise, the other option that you can that you have to do or use is modification tools. Okay, so that error is cleared. So this you can see it is highlighted in green because it is marked an exception. Next error that we have, again it must not have gaps. This is again an exception. Okay, I'll mark this also as an exception. Then next that we have is, and this is the same error, must not have gaps. Mark as exception. This is again must not have gaps here. This error has been zoomed to. Again, you have gaps. So all these small gaps that you have, when you look at the entire parcel layer, you cannot identify them. It's very difficult to identify or even know. Even at this zoom level, you won't be able to know that there's a gap. Right? So using so when we're using topology, it allows us to find, identify, and correct these minor errors as well. Okay, so again, you can create a feature. Just select the particular fix, and then the error. And also one more thing, as you're correcting the errors, make sure you're saving the edits. Okay. What other errors we have here? I think okay, only one, two errors we have still. Yeah. Again, the same error must not have gaps. So there are no overlaps here. All the errors that we have are for the gaps. So again, you can just create a feature. Okay, save the edits. Again, this one would be an exception. Once I'll just clear this and once again just validate this. Okay, just to make sure. Okay, so I've validated it once again, so it doesn't show any error. So these are the exceptions that it's showing. Other than that, it doesn't show any other error. Okay, so this is how you can identify and fix the topological errors or the geometrical errors that you may have in your data. Okay. So next is you may have error with respect to when your layers that you have for a just a minute. So you may have so the errors may be okay. So now the errors that you may have with respect to spatial inaccuracies. Okay, so here suppose if I just let me just remove this topology for now. I've corrected it. Okay, so here now I have suppose I have these two layers. Okay, one is parcels and I have the roads. So when I'm working on this, okay, again one more thing that you could have done is for the topology, you could have added. I could have added the roads here also, and maybe I could have given that these roads shouldn't be overlapping or intersecting with any of these polygon boundaries with the feature class 1 and 2. Okay, that could be another thing. Alright, so here I have the roads layer, okay. So here I have to make sure if I'm working on these two layers here, these two have to be in this, should have the same spatial reference. Okay, so now suppose let me, so spatial, this parcels, does anyone have some doubt?
No, ma'am, continue.
Okay, okay. So source, so the spatial reference, here you can see the spatial reference is in WGS 1984. Okay. So now if I check the same spatial reference for the rows, it should be same. Okay, just make sure it is same. If it's same, not an issue. If it's not, then you'll have to reproject. So both are of them are in the same. Okay, so when you have these spatial inaccuracies though, they may be like in terms of like for example area or length, okay, there may be differences. Now for example, if I just uh, and maybe just reproject this and show what could be the difference. What is the in terms of area? How will the uh, difference be, or how the area would be different for both if the this thing is different spatial reference. So also one thing, if these two were in different spatial reference, what you could have done is parcels join. Suppose this is in WGS 84. If this wasn't any other spatial reference system, project 2. So I'll just show the comparison, okay, for the different spatial reference, how much will the area or length change, okay. So here, let us go to the project tool, the data management. Under projections and transformations, you have your project tool, okay. So here I'll suppose give this input data set as roads, or you can also do it for the parcel areas, that is fine. Okay, let me show it for roads itself. Parcels have anyway shown the attributes in this as well. Okay, so here I have, suppose let's give it as roads projected. Let's give it. Okay, so I'll select the output coordinate system. Suppose I give it as UTM zone. So this is for this is within Karnataka, Mysore. So this would fall under 43. So I'll give the coordinate system for UTM zone for select the UTM zone as 43. Okay. And then just convert it, maybe transform it. So here I have the roads projected here as well now. Okay, so now if I check the, if I suppose calculate. So for here you have the, for roads layer, this is the, what is this calculated trial? Okay, I'll just calculate. For this itself I'll calculate. So I'll give, so I'm trying to calculate the length. Okay, not calculate field, you have to give calculate geometry. Okay. Alright. So here, what is the field, okay, which I'm updating right now? It is this trial 1. And what is it that I'm trying to calculate? It's the length. Okay. So geodesic means the 3D surface. On the actual 3D surface, what would be the length? Okay, without the projection. So here you have the length unit. So just I'll keep it in kilometers or meters, anything is fine. And then set the coordinate system. So coordinate system, I'm using the same as the layers that the roads coordinate system, whatever it is, I'm using the same. Okay. Okay, so it's taken the, I've given the coordinate system as well, and then just give okay. Okay. So these are the length, okay, the road length values that you have for each of the roads. Okay. Now, if I do the same for the projected also, and then here it is created. Calculate geometry. Same we have to calculate. Make a coordinate system. Calculate geometry. Trial 1 for that field you're trying to create. And I'm trying to find the length. Okay, so I'll not give geodesic. Geodesic means it's in the actual surface. Okay, so it will not take into consideration the projection. But I want it in this projection, I want the length. Right, so I'll select length. Unit, I'll keep the same for comparison.